Hey everyone, Jan here, codingwithjan.com. If you ever wanted to build your own theme for the official theme store, then would you be interested in hearing some advice directly from the CEO of the most successful theme company out there? Well, good for you, because that's exactly what we are doing today. We will be speaking to Thomas Kelly, the CEO of Archetype Themes, a multiple 8-figure brand. And I'm super stoked he blocked some time for us, so let's dive in and hear what he had to say.
All right, good morning, Thomas. Thanks so much for being here. And yeah, as you know, today we want to talk a bit about themes in general, how to build them, what comes alongside with them. And since the audience maybe doesn't know you yet, would you just like to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, Jan. Thanks for having me. My name's Thomas. I am CEO of Archetype Themes, as Jan just mentioned. I have been building and growing Archetype Themes for the past year after having acquired it from two of my previous teammates that I worked with at Shopify. Before Archetype Themes, I was working at Shopify on the theme and online store platform for 6 years. So in different capacities, I was building themes, I was working on developer tooling, I was working on online store performance, making all themes and online stores faster, working with the developer community as a developer advocate. So I am just over 1 year into this journey of now looking at themes from building a business angle. How do you build and scale a successful theme business?
Okay, I couldn't imagine a better sparring partner for this interview. So I have different topics in mind, and just looking at my notes here really quick, I would like to touch on requirements a bit, coming up with a concept for a theme, the development process, marketing, and ongoing support. And I'm pretty sure you're very knowledgeable in all these topics because you work at Shopify, you also see the business side of things, running a theme company now. Mm-hmm. So how about we just get started with the requirements? What qualifications are needed in order to build a theme? Like, who should even consider doing that?
So I think the magic recipe that I've seen, it's kind of time and time again. I have seen success with as little as 2 people starting a theme company, starting their own theme. And that is typically a designer and a developer. Okay. It's rare that those skills overlap in full capacity. It's possible you could be a really good designer and a developer, but it's also a lot to take on just yourself. That building a theme is a big project. There's a lot of upfront investment involved. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have at least somebody else to work with, I think maybe is a place to start. And then in terms of skills required, from the design side, keen eye for what's appealing, understanding of users that you want to target. Maybe we can get into that separately, because I feel like most of the people watching this are more developers. Am I right to think that? Yeah.
I would say it's 70% developers, maybe 30% merchants with a technical interest. Cool. You're right.
Yeah, so I think from a development standpoint, a good understanding of vanilla JavaScript, vanilla CSS, and HTML is the absolute is a good starting point. What's nice about themes is that they're not framework specific, or the themes are framework agnostic, or there isn't really a framework built around themes like you see in themes are not built on React, Vue, any of the modern single page app frameworks. What is actually, I spent a lot of years answering that question of why can't I use React with themes and why can't I use these frameworks? I think at the end of the day, themes have positioned themselves well as the static traditional stack, server-side rendered. They're fast. They're fast for their specific use, and we could dive into that separate. But I think the stack that themes are built on is really handy, is really suited for its needs. There are some shortfalls for sure that we could get into, but I love that at the end of the day, it's HTML, CSS, and JS.
Okay, so yeah, the web development stack and an eye for design or a separate design now.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. So maybe we can then just dive into the concept already, because you also briefly mentioned that. How do you even come up with a concept is one question that I noted here. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
A concept like in terms of the design direction or a unique value offering. Am I hearing that correctly? Like what's going to be your angle if you're deciding to make a theme?
Yeah, actually all of the above, because like, okay, if I would be starting a theme company today, I didn't even have any clue where to start. So my question would be, how to approach this whole topic, how to come up with good ideas, yeah, along those lines.
So targeting and verticalization is something that Shopify is more and more interested in, or has always been interested in, and now more than ever. Shopify is very interested in increasing the number of themes in the theme store. And part of that is making it so that the collection of themes serve the full spectrum of merchants that are arriving at the store. So a good place to start, and something that Shopify would probably be pretty responsive to if you reach out to them, if you're interested, is getting an idea of what are the underserved markets or could call it like target or topics or verticals that aren't really represented as much in the theme store. I'm not going to say what particular examples it is right now, because who knows when somebody's going to be watching this and what it might be. You can do that just by looking around the theme store. They have in the filtering different categories. Get an idea for what is underrepresented. And I think from a design standpoint and a targeted market standpoint, that's one good approach. In addition to that, what is your, I think there is a secret sauce in what's going to be your specialty or your unique value offering that's going to make you stand out from all the other themes. That it's a blurry line. I know merchants, just kind of from merchant interviews and from previous research at Shopify, merchants already have a hard time understanding the difference between a free theme and a paid theme, and then understanding why some paid themes are $250 and other paid themes are $350.
Right.
What's your angle, and what are you going to do differently than other theme companies, and how are you going to stand out? There's no clear answer to that, but for me, that's something that's important to think about.
Okay, and when you said in terms of specialization or filling the gaps in the theme store, pretty much, is that more industry specific? Like, okay, we have 2 little themes for fashion stores, let's say, or is that more we have 2 little themes that fulfill the German legal requirements, let's say? Is that, yeah, which one would it be?
I think the more, especially out of the gate, in terms of limiting the amount of work you need to do to get a theme out and in the wild. You want to reduce the scope of your work as much as possible, because themes are already very big projects. Getting through that list of requirements, just minimum requirements, is a multi-month project in itself.
Yeah.
And then knowing at least specifically, okay, we are going to target this very specific audience. I think you made a good point on the kind of German legal requirements, localization in general. One of the reasons why Shopify needs a theme partner ecosystem is so that it can succeed internationally. That themes there's a difference between translations and localization. That a theme built by Germans, made for Germans, is probably going to do better than a theme built by Canadians translated to German. It's just like, people know our product in their environment, people know where they live, they know what's more common. So if you are in international markets, if you are, that's a very that's a good angle to take. What's unique about kind of online shopping in your culture, in your part of the world? How can you really target that audience?
Okay, that's really interesting. And yeah, now you also mentioned that building a theme is quite a big project. When we talked to Liam about this, he said plan at least 6 months. So I wonder, is there a way to validate your ideas early? Because, okay, now I have this idea, okay, theme for the German market. But does anyone really want that? I have no data on that. I mean, I can guess, but yeah, do you have any ideas on validating your idea?
For me, that's okay. I immediately think about when it's like, how can I get something smaller scoped? That I jump from themes to sections, and I think about app blocks and apps that integrate with themes. And if your unique idea, if it's about building something in an online store, I think, okay, well, what if I was talking to someone the other day, really, about this, just, I don't know if I should build a theme. What's smaller than a theme? A section. And some of the latest functionality that's part of app extensions with online store is an easy way for apps to integrate with themes. And you can reduce the scope of your work from an entire theme to a section or to a block, even as small as a block. So that might be a nice way of, if you have a specific idea, or if you just want something smaller scope, but still very much kind of in theme, in the theme tech stack, it's not that big of a jump to app blocks, or app extensions. That an app block is just theme files at the end of the day. And there's just a little bit additional learning, which there's some good documentation on how to get started with an app that basically serves that app block. So I think of that when you say kind of quick feedback loops. Otherwise, I don't have a good answer in terms of if you're targeting a theme. The most recent examples of some friends who recently went down the path of starting their own theme company and releasing a theme. Really, nothing was public until the theme was done and built. You can get some feedback from talking maybe to the merchants that you would use for your demo stores. So this, maybe I'll give some context there. Part of making a theme is you want to present that theme in its best light. And to do that, you create demo stores that a merchant can click through and view your theme fully assembled and designed in its best light. So to do that, you need products, you need a product catalog, you need photography, and most often a theme designer will approach an existing business, an existing merchant, and strike a deal. That's a whole other area, but strike a deal of some sort to use their product photography and brand as their demo store. So I think there's maybe some validation there in terms of overall kind of, does your theme, can you make sure your theme suits this merchant's needs? That might be a first good pass, but actually getting it in front of other customers quickly, like I know what you're meaning, a quick feedback loop of how can I get something out in a month or two, validate, iterate, next iteration. It's tricky with themes.
Yeah, but I think you gave some great input. I mean, it was the first time that someone said to me, you can also test individual sections or block, like testing the individual features of your theme. That's pretty smart. And yeah, also like the merchant feedback. I think Liam also recommended that, just having merchant interviews, talking to them, see how they react, which is not maybe, it might not be the biggest sample size, but at least gives you an indicator.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think this was all I wanted to know about how to come up with a concept. And I think this was great input. So why don't we dive straight into the development implementation part? So let's say now I have a great idea. How much time should I plan in your opinion?
building an entire theme from scratch. Okay, no, I have to frame this in the current world of theme development. Shopify made their main free theme, their default theme, open source, Dawn.
Yeah.
It was positioned as a starting point to build themes. At the end of the day, though, if we had this problem back in 2015, we had another free theme library. It was called Timber. If you use too much of that theme, it ends up looking just like Dawn, just like Timber, and it will not pass the theme review process. You could take this from the angle of Dawn is free and open source, and if you just modify it a bit and choose to resell it, that kind of goes against licensing, like you're just reselling a free product.
Right. Changing one CSS class and then uploading it.
Yeah, and it's so like I get why that is tricky on Shopify's side, trying to provide a starting point. That said, Dawn is an amazing learning resource, and using pieces of Dawn, whether directly or drawing inspiration from it, whether it's how to do responsive images on Shopify, how to structure your JS, how to what a theme looks like that works well with Shopify CLI. Dawn is one of the best ways to learn how to code is through high quality examples, and Dawn is a very high quality example.
Okay.
So, but factoring in building out a theme, it's a big investment. There's no beating around it. It's going to take months to get the requirements kind of that are in there checked off, and then it's what make themes harder than just building a custom theme for a merchant. So there's as a developer, you could approach a merchant and they want a custom store, and what's nice about that is you can take an existing theme, modify it to the needs, or you could build a custom theme, but it really just needs to do what that merchant wants it to do. When you're building a theme for the theme store, that theme needs to accommodate any combination of customizations of it needs to be, there's another level of resiliency of testing, of flexibility, you need to make sure that this text field works with 2 words or 15 words. You need to make sure that things reflow, and there's a lot more variables that you end up having to deal with, which make theme store or fully self-serve themes that much harder to make. Okay. It's not by any means impossible. I love seeing there's been a lot of new players this past year join the theme store, but I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a good amount of time getting things up and running. Okay. What's nice though is that the features that you're building, the large majority of requirements that you have to fulfill are generally the same. I'm not from theme to theme, that there's the basic theme that needs to be made. You'll have a lot of reference material, you won't be alone in developing that, the basic requirements of a theme. So that is definitely helpful. What's important is then what's your unique angle, what's going to separate you from the other themes though, which is what I mentioned earlier.
Yes. Okay. So if you had to put out a ballpark here, is it 6 months, 8 months, 12 months? What do you think?
I would say building a theme from scratch without a previous, if you've built a theme for a client before, so depends on your audience. If you are an agency or if you've been building custom themes and you have something to start from and you need to migrate that from a custom theme to now a theme that you want to sell in the theme store, I would say for 4 to 6 months to migrate that and deal with all the variables that are now introduced from building a new theme or from building a self-serve theme. If you're building something from scratch and you don't have any previous resources, I have seen, it's easy for it to be 8 to 12 months. A safe guess would be 8 to 12 months. I'm sure if you really hunkered down, you could do it faster. But speaking from experience, that last 5% of building a theme that you think, oh, it's just a month more work, always takes so much longer. You'll get to a point building your theme where like, oh, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're almost there. And that's where all of the variability starts to come out. You have, it's working in your default, in your preset, in your development environment. Things are looking good. It's working. And then once you start really flexing it and your teammate or your QA or your designer starts doing this combination of things and this combination of things, you start to see the cracks. And it's that last 5% of really cleaning things up, which I think is really important to do. You really need to clean that up and not have any cracks in that sense. I think that's a really defining quality of like a high quality theme.
Okay, Okay, so maybe we can say 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months
it
is,
depends.
Yeah.
Okay, and I also think it was pretty interesting what you said earlier when you said migrating from a custom theme to a public theme, because that could even be used as sort of a validation. You can build a theme and then put it out for several of your customers already or clients, and then migrate it to a public theme. But yeah, that might not be the fastest approach, but maybe a safe one. Okay, then my next question would have been the tech stack. Maybe we can just cover that briefly because I'm sure there goes a lot of detail into that. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is kind of self-explanatory, I guess. How about frameworks? Do you use any frameworks like Tailwind, React, Vue, anything?
Archetype themes, we don't use any particular framework. Our themes are using a light kind of way of structuring our. There is a pattern and the way our code is structured. It was actually one of the first things that I worked on at Shopify when sections were introduced, just a way of registering and managing sections. That is still live in the Shopify/theme scripts repo. Like there's some underlying scripts that are still used by Archetype themes now. In a similar light too, if you look at Dawn, there are patterns that are held to. And actually, Dawn is using custom elements as it's the way of structuring JS, which was one of the last things I was able to kind of push forward while I was at Shopify, which custom elements have all that stuff that was in the previous way of managing sections is now just kind of part of custom elements, basically like a life cycle events. And a section is, especially in the editor, can be inserted, can be reloaded, and can be removed. So you need something to manage that life cycle of something being added and removed and what to do when that happens. So custom elements is a nice thing to look at in terms of structuring your JavaScript in combination with your HTML elements, which Dawn landed on a principle that was kind of referring to web native or building close to the browser, using as much of the browser's functionality as possible, not trying to reinvent the wheel.
That's web components, just curious, right?
Yes, so custom elements is 1/3 of web components. That the other part is Shadow DOM, and I always forget the third one. What is it? It's 3 parts. Somebody will comment on it. There's another. I'm going to rack my brain over it now. HTML imports. It was HTML imports, but it's something anyway. So using the browser's functionality as much as possible, but that's not helpful. or sorry, that's not landing on a particular framework, but these are more like patterns. For CSS, I have seen the Tailwind is picking up. It does work with the theme tech stack. I haven't, for Archetype, it would require us to totally rewrite our themes and the styling of our themes. So we don't use Tailwind. I still haven't formed a strong opinion of whether I would want to migrate, like go through the process, if it's worth migrating our themes to Tailwind. I think if you're starting a fresh project, it's something to consider. I don't have months or years of hands-on experience with Tailwind. I hear people griping about parts of it. It's one solution. Like, there's no perfect solution to any of this stuff. I think maybe this is the jaded side of me. You're just trading one set of problems for another. Pick what you feel is easiest to work with for you, that you want to invest your time in. And Tailwind has the advantage of not that you don't need to manage your CSS as like CSS files as much. But then you end up with potentially more bloated HTML and so Tailwind possible. I have also seen people use single page app frameworks, not for an entire theme, because themes are server side rendered. They're bound to Liquid. So Liquid, as much as I've tried to like make single page app functionality or front end framework work with Liquid, it's always feels like a hack. It's Liquid is, until you can render Liquid client side, which there is a library that does pretty well at that, but it just feels a bit heavy for me to use.
Okay.
That you can use single page apps for complex parts of a theme, and like complex parts for me mean like the product option selection and the product picker portion of a theme, like that has a state and that has different options, and there's a lot of complexity there. Or the cart is another place I've seen an app kind of being used, not a Shopify app, like a single page app, a client side rendered, where you need to manage client side state. Is another place that, like something like Preact, something that doesn't have too much overhead, is from where I would land on that if you wanted to venture down that, but
Maybe not this video.
I'm not endorsing it in terms of like you should do it this way. I mean, we don't do it at Archetype, but I've seen people do it, and if that's something you feel like is worthwhile digging into.
Yeah. I think what you said earlier in terms of like pick what you feel comfortable with, that's pretty good advice. And it also goes to show that you don't need a framework, but you can consider it. So I think we can leave it at that. Yeah.
Fairly agnostic themes are very agnostic when it comes to particular tools or frameworks. That for the better and worse, Shopify didn't really land on a particular way or restricted way of building a theme. It ends up being that there's more variable in how stores are built, which makes it harder for Shopify. But in terms of controlling pieces and making sure that, speaking from performance days of how do you make stores faster? Oh, but they're all built differently. But it allows so much more freedom in terms of how you end up building the website. So.
Okay. So far so good. Then let me just wrap up what we covered so far. We've been talking about how to come up with a concept. We've talking a bit about the development, the tech stack, how much time to invest. I was just thinking about the best resources to learn. You were mentioning Dawn as a great theme to look at, draw some inspiration from, or source some inspiration from. Would you say it's a good idea in general to look at other themes, or would you rather prefer the Shopify docs? Yeah, maybe we can just go over this one really quick.
Yeah. In terms of easiest resource to get your hands on is Dawn. The other free, Dawn is the kind of best free resource to look at. Looking at other themes of it's just about, for me, learning a tech stack is there was a talk, I would love to get the reference of it for this video, but it really talked about how learning through high quality examples is the way that, like, our human brains are so good at picking up subtle patterns and without us really realizing it, It was talking about how sexing a chicken, in that if you ask someone who's figures out if this chicken is male or female, they can never really tell you what attributes it is, but they can look at a chicken and be like, that's male or that's female. But if you ask them like, why did you say that? They're like, oh, well, I can just tell.
Okay.
So it's all these subtle patterns that you pick up with over time that it kind of resonates with high quality examples, that if you can be learning from high quality examples, then what you will end up, you learn how to build high quality themes. So Dawn, by far, like there's a lot of smart people behind Dawn. Dawn's a good place to look. You can, if you can get your hands on paid themes, I know there's a lot of currently illegitimate ways of getting your hands on paid themes. I'm going to take the stance, and this is something that it's been a hot topic this year, but for Archetype, I believe that easy access to code wins. That the fact that we currently have to lock our code away and keep it private isn't something that I love. So I'm happy to go on record saying that if you can find a copy of Archetype themes that's off the theme store, if you like whether or not this is distributed in from Archetype or from some other means, if you are using that on a dev store or as an unpublished theme, basically if you're not making money off of it yet, Archetype doesn't need a cut. That is to, like, you should be able to tinker, experiment, learn from what's there. It's if you use a paid themes code as part of another paid theme, or if you eventually make money from this code, then that is when it would be cool if we got paid for our work there too.
Yeah.
And I think
that's
generally
like
theme partners,
yeah,
well, and that's it's you see it in the rest of the kind of web development ecosystem. It's the free tier, that it's about serving that curiosity that a developer has, and not putting barriers in front of them, just letting anyone dive in and tinker and learn the product, and then once it actually becomes useful, then you start paying for the paid tier.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I was just thinking about the free mode students. Maybe we can pick up that conversation another time. But yeah, anyways. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, that have been my questions for the development side of things. I have two other topics. Also keeping the clock a bit in mind, we don't want to make this video too extensive. We can rather follow up on questions if people have specific ones. But now let's say I've built out my theme, I've sat down for like 6 months or 12 months, it's ready to go. How do I market that? Is it just the theme store and search volume or search traffic, or also other ideas here? I'll be very curious to pick your brain.
So up until I joined Archetype, Archetype's main form of marketing was the theme store, and the majority of theme partners use the theme store as their main marketing channel. It's limited in terms of what you have control over, or even the visibility in terms of or levers that you can pull, and visibility into terms of how well it's working. But ultimately, the theme store is positioned in Shopify's onboarding flow, and there are millions of page views on the theme store. So in terms of discoverability and visibility of your product, the theme store is where you need to be. So in the respect of should you sell off the theme store or on the theme store, it's to your advantage to sell on the theme store.
Makes sense, yeah.
From other points in marketing, it's ultimately, this is something we're learning and exploring too. There isn't a lot of green paths or best practices established here yet. This kind of goes into the business side of the theme ecosystem that I feel like can be developed. That as your theme business matures, you want to be pursuing more and more sophisticated, more avenues of marketing, more avenues of promoting your product, making it more discoverable. The options available to you aren't super clear, and even when you dive into it, there are some limitations. For example, when a merchant trials your theme, as a theme partner, you don't know who is trialing your theme. You don't get an email for that trial. Like any other software service, when you sign up for a demo, you put your email in, and then in exchange, you basically, for trialing this product for free, the company gets your email and they can onboard you. They can teach you more about their product. They can sell you that product. Currently, the way Shopify is structured, you don't have access to a shop's email who is trialing your theme, which limits your onboarding and sales capacity.
I see, yeah.
So there's certain limitations like that, which I'd love to push forward and make possible. But I think like any product, what you can do is like organic marketing, social marketing, positioning yourself with good content, good material. I mean, you know what this is all about. I think you can, there's a lot that can be done there that not a lot of people are doing, honestly. I don't think, I think so. Worth exploring on the organic social side. Yeah. YouTube content. Check out Archetype Themes, YouTube.
Correct. Best place to plug that one. Yeah. Any other socials you want to plug? Twitter is pretty big, right? So.
Sorry?
Twitter, I think, is pretty big with Archetype Themes, right? YouTube.
I mean, compared to we're building a Twitter following, but we publish it's in terms of new development, new stuff that's going on. You can find us on Twitter at Archetype Themes. You can also find links to our newsletter, to sign up for our newsletter. That's another feed that you can get the latest either from our website, archetypethemes.co, or you'll find links on Twitter or LinkedIn or even on our YouTube channel to get signed up for that.
Yes, I will put all of these in the description. I mean, that should be granted. But yeah, okay, in terms of marketing, then you said, okay, theme store is a must pretty much. And then beyond that, you got to get creative, organic content, maybe some collaborations, maybe even influencer marketing. I wish I had an affiliate link before making my last video. Anyways. Okay, so
all things to explore.
Yes, sounds great. So yeah, that's the marketing side of things. And the last topic I had in mind was ongoing support, because a theme is not like a one-off project and then it's out there printing money forever, right? It breaks apart. There's like changes, updates, customers. So one specific question would be, I don't even know if we can touch on that. How many users does Archetype currently have? Do you even have data on that? I mean,
we have on our website, so I'm comfortable doing the number on our website, 90,000 plus customers that we have served since inception. The support load, support is this touches on the business side of things. The business model of themes as it currently stands is a merchant pays a one-time fee for a theme, and in return they get access to the theme code, they get a license to run that theme code on that specific shop, and they get access, or there's an expectation that if they have a problem, if they need support, that the theme partner will provide support indefinitely to that merchant. And it's that indefinitely part that can be a additional burden. More particular, it's less something you need to worry about out of the gate. It's more the theme partners that have been around for 5+ years, that when you have a customer who bought your product at a price that it was 5 years ago and is still asking for help, and you're not receiving any additional compensation, that can be harder. That can add basically an additional cost to operations. Overall, though, we're So we are now 5 years into themes. I don't think it's we're not overloaded by old customer support. There's definitely a number of customers that still reach out. But what's nice about support when you're building a theme business is that it scales with your business. When you're starting off, you only have a few customers. You can handle it yourself. I think it wasn't until a year, maybe between 1 and 2 years, that Carson and Paul hired their first dedicated support person.
Mhm.
Up until a year or 2, they were doing it themselves. So it's nice that you can scale that side of the business as your business grows.
Okay.
And that as you scale it, it's typically finding somebody who can work on support tickets, who can help customers full time, however you want to structure that.
Yeah.
We are now, like, Archetype now has more than 10 people internationally that are helping our customers, unblocking them, setting them up for success, both from a pre-sale standpoint, that if somebody reaches out before they bought a theme, we have people to answer questions, and then set up and integration. And I think that is one of our strongest biggest strengths is our support team. That we really have a great support team that knows what they're doing. They know themes. They've been working with themes previous to Archetype. And I think that's one thing our customers really note is represented in our reviews. In terms talking about marketing, that was one thing that Paul was very particular about was reviews. That social validation does a lot. So support translates to good reviews.
Okay, that's interesting. You touched on very different on different things that I liked a lot. So maybe 10-person support team. I think that's a good proxy measurement to kind of get an idea for how much volume it can be. But I also like that you said that it really scales with the business, so you don't have to worry about that too much in the beginning. Maybe that takes off the edge a bit for a beginner. And then lastly, support is a review opportunity. Maybe that's oftentimes overlooked. So yeah, great input on that. Now, with that, I think we covered all my topics. I mean, we've been coming from requirements, who should even build themes in the first place. Then we touched on coming up with a concept, design, how much time to plan, the tech stack, marketing opportunities, and ongoing support. Now, first of all, thanks so much for coming on the show and being so transparent about everything and sharing the advice. So I think a very fair thing to do would be, do you have anything to say to the audience? Do you want to promote anything? The watch time is all your real estate.
Oh God, I didn't prepare anything. I just came here to chat with you. No, I think if you want to chat about themes, I love talking about themes. We're doing a lot of cool stuff at Archetype. If maybe starting your own theme thing isn't, maybe feels like too much for you, reach out. You can find me. Easiest place is on Twitter, Thomas Kelly. Love talking about themes. We have some really cool things in the pipeline at Archetype. I've kind of mentioned previously, whereas Carson was all about building themes and kind of doing what works and really building a solid product in the current way of building things. I'm much more interested in pushing things to the bleeding edge and doing some really cool new things, which there's some really cool stuff happening behind the scenes here that I'm really excited for next year to be launching. And we'll be looking at some hires of different, so particularly if you're interested in developer tooling, developer experience, and overall, let's theme development and developer experience, as well. Oh, and just a general Node developer who likes to work on a variety of more back-end full stack solutions. figuring out the details of hiring, but there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been done yet in themes that this is why I jumped over to Archetype, was doing it on Shopify's side. Doing some of these things on Shopify's side, you have to figure out the solution for all of themes and all theme partners. I can now execute some of these ideas at a smaller scale, which is just for Archetype themes, which lets us move faster, lets us move and do some cool stuff. So reach out if you're interested.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I will put all your socials in the description.
Awesome.
Guys, you've heard it. Follow Thomas on Twitter. And if you're looking for an awesome job next year or as soon as possible, reach out to him. Maybe there's an opportunity. And yeah, with that, I think we can wrap this up or bring it to an end. Thomas, thanks so much for taking the time today and really looking forward to the next video.
Thanks, Jan. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.